Masters, which started in 2008.
Yeah.
And did the 15-month MA and graduated, and all of us were in the same situation of having ideas of wanting to continue the work we started in the Masters, and we'd all become really close friends and spent a lot of time together, and the more we all talked about it, the more we realised we wanted the same sort of thing in terms of where we wanted our careers to go and what we were interested in. So we started talking about getting a studio together, and it just progressed naturally into...
It was quite a gradual process. We were just sort of keeping an eye open for studios and shops and mulling over what we wanted to do. And we saw this for rent. Anna saw it actually. She was like, guys, I found somewhere, it's perfect.
It's just, it was just as much as nearly getting the studio, so we kind of did our calculations and thought, well, here we've got the space, an open space where people can see what we're doing, and then everything started linking together that we can actually as well do the ethical fashion of being transparent, showing people what we're doing, then selling the clothes at the same time.
It's literally transparent.
It's,
working in front of the public.
I guess all of us probably in our BA degrees probably were already interested in all the works we were doing were pretty much sustainable projects, even though it wasn't something on the courses, I don't know, with none of us. So each of us was interested in doing something with sustainable fashion, and then
I think it was actually like what I felt, it was being in a fashion environment and understanding that was actually not the kind of environment I liked, and there was this point, I think I was a bit frustrated thinking, now what am I going to do? I just spent lots of time studying this, and I just realized that this is actually not something that makes sense. I'm just constant pressure of having new stuff all the time and just producing, having cheap stuff, and
ultimately
I think,
not so meaningful maybe.
Yeah, exactly, and like wanting to give something different to people, like not just clothes but an experience, and I don't know, thinking about clothes in a different way.
I was studying fashion with marketing, and I suppose through marketing I learned a lot about how consumerism and branding and how brands try and sell to people, and I just suddenly realised, I was like, oh, this is a horrible industry actually. I prefer to be part of the solution than the problem, and I started to think about ways that I could do something positive in the industry. And when I saw the MA Fashion environment, I thought it would just be a really good opportunity to look at other elements in the fashion industry which you could work on for positive change.
Yeah, but you're asking us what we studied beforehand, and we did actually all do slightly different types of degree. I myself did accessories design, and I did knitwear. Emma, she just said fashion and marketing, and Ines, she just did fashion design. So we've all come from slightly different areas, but ultimately with the same sort of goals and what we're looking to achieve in different ways, which I think is something that makes the shop work really well, because it's got that diversity, and we've all got something different to offer.
I think especially then the MA kind of, so many people came with all different ideas about ethical fashion, what is ethical fashion and sustainable fashion, and putting everything in a pot, and then relearning as well different ways that other people were thinking about it. Even four of us probably have different ideas about what our ideal way of doing something is, but then putting these ideals together, mixing things up, and finding our own way.
There's common strands that come out of that for all of us. It's just more to do with just having a human element for design, where you really think about how someone's going to use something and making it something that's going to be cherished, something that people are going to want to keep, not just low quality.
Hence the here today, here tomorrow. Who thought of the name? Or is it one of you?
It was me, Well, we had this
mega list,
that was growing and growing.
Some other close misses, or it was second choice?
We had
just a lot of things with
craft
projects,
our shop, our space.
We were looking at the locality of the area as well. We were thinking something like Junction Project or opposite the tool shop.
It would have been less catchy. Yes. Original. Okay, the here tomorrow.
But almost as soon as that one was on the list, I think everybody felt that it just summed it all up really nicely, and just it feels could have been anything different.
I think it was the kind of the first name that everybody went like, oh wow, that makes sense.
Yeah, everyone just said yes straight
Yeah,
away.
there was
and
lots of
realised
people actually
it was
there. I remember we were just sitting outside
Yeah,
the
it
door.
was someone's birthday.
And then so I think Matthew was leaving or something.
Yeah, it was.
And yeah, and everybody's like, yeah, that's a great name. So I suppose it was just.
I think we were waiting for
Yeah.
that as well. We couldn't really pick a name before that
Yeah.
didn't kind of happen.
It has a nice ring to it, but at the same time it has, you know, a bit more meaning behind it, and it also suggests what the whole ethos is about the
Yeah,
shop. which
yeah, I
is
think it
why
does.
we all agreed.
People, first of all, people don't make the clothes themselves anymore, so it's so easy to go out and buy something. So and it's easy as well. It's cheap. It's easy to throw it away at the same time
Yeah,
and to
it's
replace it.
disposable.
And
Yeah.
I think that's one
just
of the
what
main
happened
things that they.
with everything else. We just have so many things. It's just we can buy whatever we want.
Yeah, and nothing's
any-
special anymore. Everything's homogenised, so you don't feel like you can buy those sorts of
Yeah.
special clothes and like they're yours.
And it's
Everyone
more
has
expensive to fix it than to throw it away and buy a new thing. So
But the world is just a completely different place now than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. I think everything's so much faster and so much more available. We're bombarded with advertising, media through so many different channels. It's not just in a magazine now, it's on the television, it's on your iPhone, it's everywhere. And I suppose globalisation has had a huge impact in terms of things being produced so much cheaper and all those reasons for bringing prices down, and because it's moved away from being into people's noses and on their doorsteps, they've lost that value and understanding of how things are made and what goes into it. But there's so many reasons why it's come to be. You couldn't really put your finger on any of them.
Yeah.
It's just a few of why it's come to be like it is.
I think the social aspect that it's even wrong to nearly wear the same dress at a different occasion twice because you might be seen wearing something twice.
the thing is, I think it actually came from a nice idea, which was the
Democratisation.
Yes, exactly. Of clothes and objects, whatever, right? It's like everybody would have the opportunity to buy stuff because they were accessible, and then it just turned into this. So it's quite sad because I guess like when you think about it, it was a really great idea. Let's make everything industrial. Let's just make it affordable to everyone. And I think sometimes that might be dangerous in like ethical fashion. Is that by making things more expensive, you're of course like it's not comparable, but you're also making it just to
People who can afford it.
yeah. And I think that people that don't really believe in ethical fashion, that's kind of what they point their finger, or at least like people I've talking to.
As well as creating really high quality jewellery products, or one of the key aims of having the studio in the shop was so people could see the process and start to appreciate how much time goes into making something, so they could understand a bit more about the craft and the skills that are required to make garments. In shops, things are finished pieces and they're closed products, so there's no opportunity really to alter it yourself or to even understand the process of making something. So I think making is a key word for us, people, and understanding that process.
I think they respect it just for that reason, that they're actually seeing the machinery we have to use. They can see the bits and bobs that come together to make it. So yeah, I think it
And
just,
I feel like lots of people don't understand. So they come here and they kind of go like they don't understand the prices. They just some people look at it as like you're trying to steal our money or something, and then you kind of explain that it takes time, and they also look like, oh, you don't have much stock here, do you? And you try to explain, oh, we make it ourselves. And also because people start buying stuff, you kind of understand what goes and what doesn't, and what people talk about. When they try things on, you can kind of tell what they think about it, and that's really really useful, because if you have stuff in the shop, you probably know what's your bestseller, what's not, but you will never know why is that people are not buying this or that. And here you just have the direct contact, and it's great, you know. And if people don't really understand what's wrong there or blah blah blah, you can just show them how to do it. We can just change sizes.
Alterations.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think like in that way it works really well. I think it's really, I don't know, it's just really nice to kind of have that contact, you know.
Yeah,
It's
that's what
not,
you're all saying.
yeah, it's not just the fact that you're selling things, it's just you actually meet the people who are taking it.
Yeah.
And that's about nice. Especially when they come back. Like yesterday I had this girl coming in and she was coming with one of Julia's purses. And I remembered her because she came in with this purse. She made it herself from an old top or something, so she was quite funny. And she ended up buying a book, so that's quite nice that people come back.
Yeah. You can really see sometimes when some customers walk in and it's almost like the penny drops. And they're like, oh, okay. And then when they kind of realise it's a studio, they'll kind of look around again, just kind of double checking everything we have and saying like, okay, yeah, I can see that everything's handmade. And I think that realisation is really nice, because then they'll start to ask more questions and you kind of feel like, well, I do. I think we all do though. It makes you feel like, you know, you're doing the right thing and it's what it is.
So by handmade, you mean all the different stages that go into accessories, knitwear, you know, clothing. It's all done by the four of you, completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll buy fabric, but apart from that,
Yeah, apart from weaving, yeah, expect that. You don't dye it yourself.
Well, we have like
actually
deep
some
dyes.
things are dyed.
Really?
Well,
Yeah.
This is dyed with turmeric, and yeah, some other things as well.
Some of my bags I use
Green.
turmeric as well.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, that green thing is also dyed. Green thing, I call it. A beautiful jumper made of hemp.
I do a sort of range of bags and smaller accessories, and the materials come from a variety of places. There's end-of-line upholstery fabrics, leather offcuts that I get from leather suppliers and upholsterers again. There's an upholsterers just a few shops down the road that give me their leather scraps, and you know, make purses and things like that from them. And also second-hand things such as jackets and belts and things like that. So it's a big mix of different things to come together to make really unique one-off pieces, but still high-quality, durable bags.
Do people sometimes bring in maybe an old jacket that's, you know, it's past its life and say, Julia, make me a beautiful handbag?
Yes, no, it's funny, someone did that just the other day. Well, they brought in an old leather bag and asked if they could do a trade and get a discount on one of my bags, so they're sort of trading it in for something new, but will potentially come back into the shop and see a little purse, something that was made from their old bag. So it's great, that was confirmation that people are engaging with what we're doing, because she's obviously been in the shop before, seen what we're doing, spoken to us, and when she saw that old bag that had reached the end of its life, she thought, well, instead of binning it, and it couldn't be sold in the charity shops, all bits ripped and fastenings broken, brought it into us, and that's exactly what we're all about, and you know, showed that it's kind of working on a small level. It's getting through to people. So.
And we had a nice email from somebody the other day who wants to bring in his wife's favourite dress, so we can trace the pattern off for him. So he'll give the pattern to his wife for her birthday so she can make more of his dresses. I think that's really nice that people are having ideas and services that we don't advertise or necessarily offer. They're asking, and we're happy to do this. Getting people to be more creative with their clothes and thinking more about what they're doing in the markets as well.
I think that's one of the great things, having the shops while you're having the direct, obviously, customer there to speak to, and they give us feedback, and I think that's the best thing we can have, is having direct feedback and their opinion and their ideas as well, and just
Yes,
knowing that
it's also a really nice way to approach people and explain them what we do here and what's the difference. Like yesterday we had this lady that came in and she was, I don't know, she was looking at stuff and we said, oh, this is all handmade, and she said, everything is handmade. If you go to a factory, there's also people working there, so then we are kind of explaining to her what's the difference. So sometimes it's difficult, but it's even more challenging, I suppose.
So I guess there's an education aspect to that.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
I think, but in a really informal way, so I think that's quite nice. So.
Yeah. With ACP, the Association for Craft Producers, we just walked into the shop and just had a really good feeling, and then they were extremely friendly and helpful, and when we met them they first showed us around the whole factory, showed us how everything works as well, and we kind of felt, okay, that looks very good. And had a meeting, and then, because we had spec sheets already drawn up before we went there, just in case we find someone.
And we had some samples with us as well, which was really handy. Because we showed them the samples, what sort of things we were hoping to have made, and they could tell us straight away if they could do that realistically, what kind of materials they had.
So the samples put the spec sheets together,
Yeah.
gave you a good idea,
Yeah.
gave them a good idea of what
Yeah.
was needed on both sides.
Yeah, and I think just getting it right the first time with the first sample, having something you've actually made which you can take and see if it's possible for them to replicate.
So you'd recommend that for someone?
Absolutely,
sourcing
yeah.
abroad?
Yeah.
Basically now I've just been working with some fabrics we had donated, and I've also been mixing a lot of local materials, especially the African fabrics, and I think they've been quite popular, which is good. I think people kind of relate to it when they come to the shop, because it's something that's quite typical from Dalston, and yeah, I think I've been like having a lot of fun using lots of colours. I usually get it from Ridley Market. It's just the road, just off Kingston Road. And I used it for my winter collection, and now I'm using it again. So I think it works pretty well.
We did a dyeing workshop, which is something we'll want to do more, use the space to hold little workshops. Obviously it's not huge capacity, but a few people came to a dyeing and dinner workshop, so it was a 3-course meal, and everything that people ate had been used to create dyes, and they dyed their own scarves. It was sort of an evening workshop, and that was, a really great thing for us to do, and something we want to do more of as well. We've also got so many skills. We were talking before about all our diverse backgrounds and so on, and education being such an important thing in terms of teaching people how to do it themselves, and workshops is definitely something that we want to do more of.
How do you eat and then use what you before you eat? How does that work? So
Well,
did you cook the food yourself as
it
well as
was-
make the clothes?
It's called Dinner to Die For, and it was run with a girl called Caitlin, who works, she's the co-director of the Permanent Couture Institute in San Francisco. And she runs these Dinner to Die For, where she will choose a selection of food, which a lot of it will be local, but food you can also dye from, like red cabbage.
Dye as in dye, not poison.
Colour dye, yeah. And we'll spend the first hour or so preparing the dye stuff, chopping up, boiling, making the dyes, dyeing silk, sometimes with clamps and different kind of stencils so you get different effects. And then afterwards the same food that they used for the dyeing will be prepared into a meal.
Great.
So you can make a good connection between the food you're eating and the colours that it gives, and how you can actually use it in other ways as well. We also try and support local designers who are working around sustainability as well. We have some stuff from a company in Leeds called Remade in Leeds, which is a really, really nice company. They use a lot of recycled material from the old mills around Leeds, and they also use skills.
It's local community groups. It's actually one of our fellow classmates from the Masters,
Yeah.
Lizzie Harrison, who's an amazing person and has gone around Leeds, met lots of women's community groups who have little sewing rooms, and has basically set up her own kind of production groups there, and yes, uses lots of recycled materials, holds swap shops, does clothing alterations and modifications and things like that, and is she supplies us with some pieces which are sold really well.
But we also have, it's not just clothes, we sell objects as well, products. But there's a potter that works quite locally, and we've been selling some of his pottery.
Which is that for him it's really great actually, because a lady came in and bought all of his stuff, and then she got in touch straight to him, and she's ordered more, and one of her friends has now ordered more as well. So that's kind of the idea as well, to have people in here to promote them for a while, and then actually in future to have more proper rotation rota. And
Maybe
advertising
seasonal
people.
or-
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
just
to
every
have
3 months.
information about them and everything, so you come here and you kind of
So
know
we've got
about what they're doing, and that's how she got in contact with Owen, because he didn't have anything, so we just gave her the little poster we had.
We've got at the moment as well a lot of jewellery from Gwen. She's a friend, and she kind of uses jewellery that she finds pieces and puts them together from her travelling from all over the world really. So
Yeah, and also
nice and
books from
DIY
Couture.
Couture.
Yeah. It's something really well.
So they're basically very simple, how to make your own, and there's a range of different garments. So that's very much in keeping of trying to get people to feel enthused about making their own things, and that's what she's all about. So, and they're just very beautiful books as well.
Yeah, they are, and I think they go really well with the shop, because
Yeah,
most of the people that come here do really expect to see this here. They always ask, oh, is it yours or something? They always think, but
Yeah.
it ourselves, yeah.
And we sell other books as well, actually. We sell some second-hand books all around fashion, skills, knitting, sewing, and sustainability as well.
and some of our favourite books.
Yeah.
Just that we like.
Definitely, everything's shared, so the cost, the amount of time we spend here, the decisions, everything's shared. And I think that's really important, having people that you can bounce ideas off. And also, when you're not quite sure about something, sometimes you just need someone to say, yeah, come on, we can do this. And then as a team, it works.
Yeah, I think all of us probably before have tried to do something on our own and set something up by ourselves, but it just just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It just, we needed each other to kind of really
Yeah.
start and just do it.
And we're still ourselves, we're still doing our own individual things.
We had an advisor come at the beginning who kind of advised us a few things, how to do them.
Which we contacted.
Yeah.
But I think they thought we were crazy. They couldn't really understand the idea behind the shop.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's such a different model from other boutiques and businesses. They just couldn't quite understand our thinking, and for us, I mean, yes, it's a business, but it's also a residency and it's an experience for us. And the business side of it is sort of equal in terms of the experience for us and what we're doing and what the ideas we're hoping to encourage other people to do as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, well, and at the same time, if we had a studio, we wouldn't be paying much less than we are now, and we have this, big window to the street. Everybody can see what we're doing here. Just a great way to promote our work. So,
I think, all of the business, and I think it's learning by doing. We're just, all of us kind of, it just happens that each of us has different areas that we all take care of a bit more or less, and we're all learning from each other still.
and I think if we
Just,
had to give anybody advice that they were going to open a boutique, it would just be to do it. Literally.
yeah.
I think
definitely.
just making that first step and connecting
Mhm.
yourself, and you learn so much on the way, and you suddenly realise that people want to help you as well. You
Yeah.
just have to be facing the right direction and carry on walking, and everything kind of happens, everything kind of seems to flow together.